Good morning and welcome, welcome, welcome. I'm Reverend G, and I'm delighted to have you here today. Who here has seen the play already? What do you guys think? Wasn't that dazzling? If you haven't seen it yet, you have an opportunity today at 2 to come and see it. So here's how it was. On Friday, there were I think 32 in attendance. I came last night and I thought, well, if 32 people from the community came Friday, we'll probably have 3 last night. And then all the seats were filled, and then we just kept needing to add more and more chairs. So I hope that's the case at 2 p.m. today as well. So come. Also, welcome to you there in the world of the holy interwebs. I'm glad that you're spending this time with us. And the way we plan these services goes like this. I've told you before, but you know, Sunday services picks the topic for the year and then for each month. And then Miriam and I, at the end of each month, sit down, look at the upcoming topic for the following month, and then I brainstorm a lot, and then we give my talks. I usually give the title, and I give the little blurb for my talks. And then the month comes, and it's time for me to prepare. And I look at the title, and I look at the blurb, and sometimes I just don't feel it, you know? And it's already been printed in the newsletter, and it's on the website, and I just don't feel it. And then I think, but I still should stick to it, because after all, I've committed. And then if it's not there, people, it's just not there, right? So this particular Sunday, the topic is right relations, or right relationships. And I sat down and I tried to work it. But you know what is the difference between motivation and inspiration? Okay, motivation, you take a hold of an idea and then you work it, right? And you work it and you make something out of it. And it's not bad, it's work. Inspiration is when an idea gets a hold of you and it works you, and it's just different. So first I tried to work it, and I said, oh, it's not working. So then I thought, okay, what idea would get hold of me and see if it can inspire me? Because I found out through my ministry that when I'm inspired, usually so are you. So let's see. Let's see if I can inspire you. Right relationships. I thought that I will talk to you today about the most fundamental relationship that must be right. Because if that one isn't, the rest just doesn't even matter. Okay? So once upon a time, and remember, I told you this before, the universe isn't made of atoms. It's made of stories. Stories are the most important building blocks of any culture. Most important building blocks of humanity's belief system. And therefore, it informs our actions, our decisions. It set the future in stone, and it sets, the past in stone, set the past in stone, and it sets a path for the future, stories. So I want to talk to you about a very, very ancient story. Once upon a time, here on this earth of ours, most of humanity believed that nature and humans are one. In fact, they thought of nature as parents who give, who nurture their children. So they walked on this earth gently, with much respect for all of life. They believed that even the stones have spirit. They believed that all the trees are alive, and they respected nature. And they respected the kingdom of animals and insects. They revered them. And there was balance. And there was harmony. But then something changed. A new story began to emerge. And this story was very different. This story spoke of a God that lived in the skies. This story, which today we know as Christianity, spoke of this God, and it said that God created humans in His image, and that He gave this command to humans to have dominion over nature. And this God told humans, that they are separate from nature and superior to it. And humans said, all right, we like the story. And so they started spreading the story. They told their neighbors. They told people far, everywhere where they met people. They just spread the story, and then kings found out about it. And then they sent missionaries. Their job was to further spread the story to people far away. And so the story took hold of Europe. And then it started to find its way to the Americas. This story. And then people started relationshiping with nature differently. They started digging into its belly, and started bringing forth stuff they found there, metals and coal. And they did that even though Ovid and Seneca, way back in the Roman times, said, mining is no good. We shouldn't do it because it's too aggressive to nature, to Mother Earth. We shouldn't do it. But this new story took hold, and now people felt it's okay to do it. In fact, they should do it. After all, they must have dominion over nature. And then in the 1600s, this funnily, fancily dressed men came around, and they said, wait, there's more. We can do even better than this. So Francis Bacon, the father of modern science, said, you must explore the deepest depths of the earth and bring forth everything that it has to offer. And you must enslave nature. And then Descartes came, the father of modern philosophy, and he said, animals, they are just these creatures without feelings, creatures who are just there for us to use for our means. They have no feelings, and they have no purpose. And so humans said, all right, we like that. We don't even have to feel guilty anymore for whipping our oxen. We don't have to feel guilty about exploiting them, for farming them, putting them in these terrible places where all we care about the flesh that they produce. And so Christianity and these two men further shaped this story. And then they said, we can make life so much better for millions and billions of people. We can do that with science, and we're going to explore and exploit the earth and nature and make life so much better. And they did. They looked at earth not as their relative, not as their mother, not as one, but as a resource to be used, to be exploited. And they needed that because for the emerging capitalists, if they looked at Earth without feeling like they belong to them, then they could commodify it. And they did. Commodify they did. And they created and they made life much better for millions of people, particularly in certain parts of the planet. And then they looked at trees and they said, oh, well, that's wood for decking. That's wood for building. The pulp is good for toilet paper. And they told themselves, because this is what the story told them, that these trees are much better for them dead than they are alive. So then they just cut the trees, and then they burrowed and they dug tunnels into her bosom, and they just kept bringing resources. And then they took hold of the seas, and they farmed the fish. They took dominion of all of Earth. And then the scientists started to notice, wait, its animals are disappearing. The insects are disappearing. Its climate is changing. Its temperature is increasing. There is a problem. So they rang the alarm bells. But the problem is that people couldn't hear it, couldn't hear the truth, and they couldn't hear the facts, because people are built in a way that if the story and the facts don't align, they can't hear the facts. So they didn't change anything. They kept doing everything the exact same way, even though scientists were ringing the alarm bells. And then they had preachers. They had preachers who had far and wide reach among many, many people. And so one of these preachers said on a radio station that our refusal to use fossil fuels hurts God's feelings. Because it's like the egg hunt for Easter. It pleases God, who He so thoughtfully put all these resources into the bosom of earth. And now we stop looking for these gifts that God so thoughtfully placed there. It just hurts God's feelings. And people ate up the story. And so they went forth and they did more of that, which hurt the entire planet. And then something changed. And it started with the children. They stopped going to school, and instead they went into the streets. And they said something has to change. We must stop. And then it started with the farmers who decided they no longer want to fight the earth. Instead, they want to build up its dirt, build up, nurture the earth. And then science came along and said, you are right. This time, the new story that began to emerge was also supported by science. And science spoke of things that people couldn't know before. Science told them that dolphins gossip. Science told them that they speak in different dialects. Science told them that plants can hear that plants can feel, plants can see, and plants have memory. Science told them that the grasshopper within 2 hours can turn into a locust, and within 2 hours it can turn back into a grasshopper. And science told them that termites are so intelligent and so productive that they created a system underground as big as the United Kingdom. And it is 3,800 years old. And science found that out by destroying the rainforest that sat on top of these termite tunnels and mounds. The only way science could learn about this by killing them. But something changed. A new story began to emerge. Not a new story, really. It's an ancient story. An ancient story that the children started to retell in their own way. That the farmers and the scientists started to retell in their own way. And this new story tells humans that humans are not separate from nature. Humans are nature. It tells the story that there's millions of bacteria and fungi that live inside and on the skin, and humans need it to live and be healthy. And that it's all interconnected. That in fact, there's fungi in the earth, and through it, the trees talk to each other. They send messages, and they nurture one another, and they heal one another. That this is all an important system, and no one is separate or superior to another. You see, we don't know how the story will end, for it is still being written. But if it is to have a Hollywood ending, then the new story must take hold. The new story must be told and must be part of the curriculum. The new story must tell people and tell their children that humans and nature are one, interconnected. And the night news, when they give the reports of the market well-being, they must also report on how many resources it took to produce these numbers, how many resources have been sacrificed, have those resources been regenerated, replenished. That must be part of our accounting. This new story must be told by artists, by musicians, by poets, and by writers. It must be amplified in every aspect of life. Because stories shape culture. The culture shapes leaders. Leaders shape policy. And policy shapes life. This new story must be told. This new story must be amplified. This new story must be lived. This must be our new, very old story. And if this relationship isn't made right, does the rest matter? This must be our foundational story. And that which says otherwise must be forcefully, vigorously discredited, disowned, discarded. And our responsibility is to make sure that that happens. End of story. And so it is.